And good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining the Great Lakes Divide stream here on YouTube, powered by FederalWilliams.com. That's FEDERAU Williams.com. Contact Mike Williams for all of your realty needs, whether you're buying or selling in the state of Michigan. FederalWilliams.com. I'm your host, Adam Biggers. Thanks for joining. You follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. You can follow Great Lakes Divide on Twitter at GL Divide, and you can follow us on Facebook at Great Lakes Divide. Just finished up the podcast with Ryan Schuling. That should be posting later today. I'll get into the questions and the topics of the day. Don Brown on the Big Ten conference call. Jim Harbaugh was not available, so spoke with Don for a brief moment. It was a pretty good interview. Got Mark Dantonio. Things didn't go quite as planned on that, so we'll talk a little bit about that. A little bit of news on Rashan Gary, or lack of news. Still kind of the same story, but Don Brown did say that they're desperately trying to get Rashan healthy and back to the lineup. So before I join in and start answering questions, I'm going to tweet the live link out. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Got a lot of new subscribers lately, so I appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate the day ones who have been here. So give me 1 second while I tweet this. And of course, since it's the bye week, we're going to be talking about Michigan State for a solid week. And I guess we could start with that. Mark Dantonio, during his press conference, I caught it on Twitter. I was following a little bit. He didn't want to talk about the pregame stuff, right? He didn't want to talk about any of Harbaugh's accusations. And okay, I get that. So he didn't mention anything about Brian Lewerke, though. So I'm going to start with that. I asked him about Brian Lewerke, and I prefaced it with saying, Mark, I apologize if this has already been asked. But Jim Harbaugh had mentioned, and I'm going towards Jim Harbaugh's comment about Brian Lewerke looking like he had a torn labrum. Jim Harbaugh said that the way Lewerke was throwing the ball, and Lewerke was 5 of 25, and that 21-7 loss, he said it looked like that he was injured. That without being a doctor, seeing an MRI, he said it looked like Lewerke had a torn labrum. So I was gonna ask that question, and boom, Mark Dantonio bit my head off immediately. Said, read the notes. I tweeted it, so the video's on my Twitter at AdamBiggers81, so check that out. And intent to deceive at Nezzy21 says, Clap blamed the Russ for throwing too many flags and being hypersensitive. And I think Nezzy, if you're watching, and if you're not, I'm going to answer it anyway. I think because of what happened pregame. If that didn't happen pregame, then maybe they're going to be extremely proactive to make sure nothing got, out of the ordinary, too physical, flagrant, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, a little bit hypersensitive. 99 penalty yards for Michigan, not what they wanted, but again, if you look at the other stats, it was pure domination. And I chalk up a lot of those penalties. That's emotion, and the referee is trying to make sure that it's not going to get too much out of hand and maintain some kind of control. So actually, I'm going to drop that the link to the audio right now of Mark Dantonio and I in here. And if you like what you see, if you like what you read on greatlakesdivide.squarespace.com, don't be afraid to show your appreciation. With a super chat, you could get your comment highlighted. Woohoo! That's the big part of it, right? Get your comment highlighted, and I think a color of your choosing, actually. I don't know. And if you 99 cents, $2, $10, whatever, if you want to contribute, I do appreciate it. And like I said, that's a better option. We had explored kind of maybe doing a subscription thing, but the logistics on YouTube kind of funky. So with the super chat thing, it allows us to do that if you'd like. So do a quick roll call here, and then we'll get into any questions, concerns. Again, we'll talk about Rashan Gary, talk about Don Brown and the defense. I'll have a piece coming up on how Michigan got to here. Michigan number 5 in the AP rankings. There's a few topics to talk about. So the big brother says, in Don Brown we trust. 920 says, what's up, Adam? Alan Pinckney says, did you see Coach Franklin comment about Iowa's D-line? I did not see that. David MCC says, hey, Adam, what do you think of Dantonio's God comment? Let me get to that. Look, if you know that you're right, like if I'm accused of something and I know that I'm right, I'm gonna go to no ends to prove my innocence, right? Because especially if you throw it out there publicly and things have happened, and so if you know that you're right, prove to me what you're saying. You're saying this about me, prove it. And if you can't, and I know that you can't because I'm right, I'm gonna go to no ends. I think the God comment's kind of a cheap way out. I think that Mark Dantonio's response to me was a cheap way out. He canceled his interview with WXYZ's weekly one-on-one interview with WXYZ TV7 out of Detroit with Justin Rose. He canceled that, and in his press conference today, basically said, I saw a little video of it. He said that he wasn't going to talk about anything that wasn't related to Purdue. So to me, that's somebody who knows that they're caught in a lie. That's the behavior of someone who's like, all right, I'm caught. I'm just going to shut up. I'm not going to say anything. That's my opinion of it. So I don't believe that Mark Dantonio and Michigan State are being 100% transparent about this because even though a statement was released by Michigan State last night, the behavior doesn't indicate as such. If someone's lying on you and you know they're lying on you, and you should have all these facts that you can throw back and say, look, you guys have it wrong. We're right. This shouldn't have happened, but this is not our fault, and this is why. I'm not seeing that from Michigan State. So Cam Clark said, what's up, Adam? Hey, Cam, the big brother says, I think this game will be talked about forever in this rivalry. It will be. Not only for the pregame stuff, but when we mentioned it Saturday, and we've been talking about it since the game. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Paul Bunyan pose. I mean, that's iconic right there, right? I mean, that's personal. That's not just that goes one step beyond the Heisman. Okay, I mean, Desmond's Heisman pose was great, but you do the Paul Bunyan in East Lansing, head bob, hands on your hips like that. I mean, that's the ultimate, F you to the crowd. Basically, is the way I read it. And I mean, I'm not saying Donovan Peoples-Jones said those words, but it's the ultimate ha ha, whatever you want to call it. It's the shove it in their face kind of moment. So I like it in terms of it's going to fuel the rivalry. Michigan State's going to see that video. We're going to be looking at that in hype videos for the rest of our lives. That Donovan Peoples-Jones, Paul Bunyan pose is going to be in every single Michigan hype video until the end of time. So more questions here. John W. Sign says, we have struggled with mobile quarterbacks in the past. How do you think Brown will stop him this season? I'm not even going to talk about Penn State yet, John. I mean, we're going to get into preview. I mean, Penn State seems like it's forever from now. So basically, I want to try to stick to. I mean, well, they're going to game plan. They're going to have plenty of game time. They're going to have plenty of time to game plan for Trace McSorley. And I mean, Brian Lewerke is a somewhat mobile quarterback, and they were able to kind of hold him. Granted, he was injured, but Lewerke's got wheels. We've seen them before. So I'll shift the focus more to Penn State next week. But right now, I think talk about how Michigan got here. And like I said, update from Monday press conference with Jim Harbaugh. What Don Brown said today during the Big Ten conference call. No player availability this week, unfortunately. So, we're gonna have to discuss a lot of old stuff and kind of gear things toward the future, but not too far in the future. We're not going to talk about Penn State yet. So, sit on that question until next week. Hopefully, I answered it a little bit for you. Barbello Sparks says same result, even a healthy quarterback. The game is won and lost at the line of scrimmage. Michigan physically is a big deal. Same result in terms of a win for Michigan. Yeah, I agree. And we predicted, if you guys want to throw out your predictions, who's the closest? If you haven't done so already, I predicted 23-14 Michigan and Michigan State. I mean, Ryan and I today talked about it on the podcast. Realistically, this should have probably been a shutout for Michigan. Fumble deep in its own territory. Michigan State recovers, uses a trick play to score, and that's their only hope. That was their only way of getting on the board. 0 for 12 on third down. You're not sustaining drives. You are not moving the ball. So Don Brown, I asked Don Brown today in the conference call if he had ever had a game in which his defense held a team to 0 for 12 on third down, and he could not remember. So again, I'll have that piece up at some point this week, maybe later tonight, but probably tomorrow. So catch that on Twitter at GL Divide, my Twitter at AdamBiggers81, and on online on our site at GreatLakesDivide.squarespace.com. Drew Fortier says that video of Harbaugh getting emotional afterward was awesome. When you have a good team who will go to war for their coach, it can lead to great things. Harbaugh called it in that video. If you remember, he said it's like the biggest win he's ever had. So yeah, Jim Harbaugh will play it cool during the week, and he played it cool Monday. But yeah, if you don't believe that this means a lot to Jim Harbaugh, and that goes back to my whole thing about when people are the Harbaugh detractors. Who is going to care as much about this as Jim Harbaugh? Okay, or another coach. Let's just say it's another coach. They get a big win. Okay, yeah, it's a rivalry win. It's important for the program. But does he understand it like Jim Harbaugh, who's been a part of it? We all know the bowl stuff and everything. Grew up in Ann Arbor. Uh, is he going to understand it like Jim Harbaugh? There's nobody who's going to care more about this than Jim Harbaugh does. That's a fact. So, yeah, it's a good thing to see for Michigan, certainly. Joe Provost says, thoughts on James Hudson's transfers? Yeah, we'll talk about that. Think he follows U of M pipeline to Central? That might be. I don't know where he's going to go, but it is kind of curious, isn't it? I mean, James was talked about, right there on the edge of the two deep, competing for a spot at right tackle. And, he and Jalen Mayfield were the two underclassmen offensive linemen who were being talked about a lot. I don't get it. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's right after Michigan State. Not only that he's leaving is maybe not so much the way that he's leaving is a surprise. It's okay, boom, it's right after Michigan State. And then we just saw Drew Singleton. He's right after Wisconsin game. He's leaving. He announced that last week. So I don't know. And again, a lot of stuff was speculated on message boards and in Facebook groups and everything like that. But all I can tell you is that last night Michigan did confirm to me and other media that James Hudson was transferring, and that's all I know as far as on that situation. So it is kind of curious though, because like I said, he's an injury away from getting in there, right? I just don't get it. You're right there on the 2D. You are right there. If you're not number 2, you're gonna play, right? And so I don't understand it. I really don't. And he has played this year. So Cameron Clark says, seems Harbaugh was mad at you for the Mayfield question. Yeah, Cam, I don't know. And a couple weeks ago, I asked him because Jalen had only played that final snap against Nebraska. We didn't see a lot of them, and we didn't. We had already heard Harbaugh tell us that Mayfield was going to play all year, so we haven't seen him. He didn't play against Michigan State. I was just following up on it, and he was like, "Yeah, who are you talking to, Adam? I don't know who you're talking to." And I said, I asked you. So, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember 2 weeks ago." So, yeah, I don't know. Again, we haven't seen Jalen Mayfield. He's not injured anymore. Harbaugh said he's practicing. He's having a good year. Big Bubba Blue says Mark's avoiding everyone. Ha ha ha! What a coach. Yeah, it's not a good tactic, especially if you're in the right. If you're in the right, you're not avoiding the questions. You want to clear the air. You go out and say something that's not true, and then you're not going to defend it. Or you go out and say something, and it's proven to be untrue, or people think it's untrue, and you're not going to go out and defend it. That goes for I'm that type of person in real life. If you say something about me that's not true, I'm going to make you prove it. And if you can't prove it, then you're going to shut your mouth. Is basically how I feel. And to me, Michigan State is acting like it's been caught in some sort of lie, or Mark Dantonio dodging the question. It doesn't look good for Michigan State. If you are right, if you're innocent, say so, prove it. Instead of shutting down and cowering to, yep, you know what? I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm going to let God decide it. That to me, I don't like that. I don't like that. Drew 48 says the video of Harbaugh getting emotional after. Okay, I already read that. Troy Radcliffe says, what's going on with you, Adam? It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. Hey, Troy, appreciate you joining. Regular Tuesday afternoon. No availability tonight with the players. No availability with coordinators on Wednesday, tomorrow. So we had Don Brown on the conference call today. No players yesterday either, just Jim Harbaugh. So it's going to be a week full of discussion, Troy. Get ready for it. Robert Protzman says, thoughts on minor health situation, and if Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State, when will they? I think this has got to be a year. This has got to be a year. And my thoughts on Urban Meyer's health situation, I'm not a doctor, but this dude seems to have some health problems at some curious times. Big Bubba Blue says, how funny how Urban is all of a sudden getting sick after the offseason here. Yeah, again, this is look, guys, I don't want to, um, slander anybody. I mean, Urban Meyer just is not a guy that strikes me of having a man of high character. Urban Meyer to me just does not. He rubs me the wrong way, and his illnesses seem to come at peculiar times. I'll say that. So Brian Rusinski says Adam changing the jersey on the wall. Yeah, I figured the Abbott one was up there for a little while, so I went with the Cal Ripken. It's actually a throwback Baltimore. It says Baltimore, not Orioles, in the '60s style. It's pretty cool. I like it. Cal Ripken Jr.'s one. Like I said, Cal Ripken Jr., Jim Abbott, Ken Griffey Jr. I do not have a Ken Griffey Jr. jersey, believe it or not. I have umpteen different jerseys, not one Ken Griffey Jr. jersey. I want the '89 Mariners Ken Griffey. That'd be awesome. Cam Clark says, how is MSU so injured? Seems like every position they may be lucky to get to a bowl. Michigan State is banged up everywhere. Mark Dantonio, and they're not talking about Brian Lewerke's health status. So, I mean, Lewerke's banged up. No Felton Davis out for the rest of the year. His career at Michigan State over, Achilles injury. Very unfortunate. And, to go down in the Michigan game, that's just got to absolutely kill him. But that's, it's unfortunate that it's part of the game. And, your heart goes out to a guy like Felton Davis, definitely one of the most talented wide receivers in the country. And I believe that he had enough talent to be considered as a late first-round pick. And now, with his health and everything. So, and then you look at Michigan State's offensive line, beat up. Michigan State missing a couple, key pieces of the secondary, and Josiah Scott. I mean, it's just injuries. Harbaugh even mentioned injuries. He specifically mentioned Lewerke and the offensive line. He said not to take anything away from Michigan's defense. It did a great job, but they know that Michigan State was injured. But I mean, you still play the game. If Michigan State won and Michigan was injured, nobody on Michigan State side, or there wouldn't be any Michigan fans feeling sorry. Well, hey, the game's played. You're injured. You're not. You know how it goes. So, but yeah, I thought Harbaugh showed a little bit of class, at least in recognizing, hey, they were injured. Yeah, we got the best of them, dominating some stat areas, but they were injured. The big brother says Purdue will have a lot of confidence after thumping Ohio State. Yeah, I agree. Michigan State better watch out. Alan Payton says weakest position on Michigan's team right now. Let me come back to that one, Alan. I don't know. I mean, and I don't want to use the term weak then. I mean, because I don't really see a weak position. Or do you want to say the least of the strong positions? They're all strong positions. I mean, the offensive line's playing very well. The running game's doing well. The tight ends are playing well. Wide receivers are playing well. Quarterback's playing well. Special team, but the weak field goal kicking. I'll say that. That's the only one thing that I can really, in penalties, but that's not really a position. Quinn Nordine does not have my confidence as a field goal kicker. Does he have your confidence? If a game-winning, and Ryan and I talked about, what if Michigan State went down to the wire, a game-winning field goal was going to decide it? You taking Coughlin or Nordine? We both, without a blink of an eye, chose Coughlin. So that's the one thing that does concern me about Michigan. Other than that, it wasn't. Other than that, I don't really see a lot of concerns, or certainly no weaknesses. Dre 408 wants to know. So was that why Rico Beard was mad at the DPJ pose? Because was he mad at it? Because of Paul Bunyan? I thought it was a good one. So, Big Brother says, I'm so glad I went to the game. Yeah, how many of you guys were at the game? And how'd you endure that weather delay? Ryan and I had fun. We did a live stream. Got a lot of interaction. That was a good time. Ethan Lahena says, Michigan's odds to beat Ohio State continue to rise. What have you seen from Ohio State that shows that they are beatable? The Purdue game. Rivalry, anything can happen. Michigan, Ohio State. Robert says, Allen, it's the kicker. Yeah, Robert, as far as the, weakest position, I mean, field goal kicking, that's the weak area right now that's really the only weak area that I can cite. Big Bubble Blue says, should have been a shutout, Shea, but Shea should have had 2 picks on their side of the field as well. So I'm satisfied with the score. Tyler Different says, I was close, Adam. I said 200 rush yards, 5 sacks, and Davis under 50 yards. Hope Davis is going to be okay. Yeah, I do remember saying that, Tyler. You're very close. Matt the Destroyer says, what's up, guys? Hey, Matt, Hal Barber, if State had to sustain a drive from their 20, it was no way they would have scored. Well, I mean, they're 0 for 12 on third down. I mean, you can't sustain a drive when you don't convert on third down. So, yeah, great point. Jimmy G says, Adam, heard anything about Chris Evans? He hasn't even looked 70% on the field. I haven't heard anything about Chris Evans. I know he's taken a lot of criticism for that fumble. But I mean, other than that, I haven't heard anything about Chris. What specifically do you mean? I mean, is he at full health? I don't know. I don't think he's at full health. No, I'll say that. Barbello Sparks says, Adam, when you really look at it, the weather really saved this game from getting ugly. They were extremely outmanned. Possibly. Michigan was driving. Then the weather comes. Think maybe they get a touchdown. Again, I mean, Michigan played, and on the stat sheet, you'd think that Michigan won by 3 touchdowns plus. I mean, it's just, I know we went over the numbers already, but total yards, 395 to 94. 183 rushing yards, nearly 3 times Michigan State's average. That was the number 1 ranked rushing defense. Even after being gashed for, what was it? 100 and what did Miles Sanders have? I'm going to look that up real quick. Yeah, 147 or 174 something. I mean, he went off against Michigan State. I know that. 162, okay. 162 yards with a long of 78 and a touchdown. He averaged 9.5 per carry. So Miles Sanders was able to do that against Michigan State. Michigan State still averaged 62.3 yards given up per game. Michigan comes in and nearly triples that. So again, that goes to the point. I talked about this with Ryan. There were I don't know how many of you watched or listened to the Huge Show. Huge, Bill Simonson, outspoken guy on a lot of things. He said Harbaugh was outcoached offensively in this game, and I can't agree with that because A, you're playing against the weather. B, the game plan, keep it on the ground because of the weather. They knew it. I mean, Michigan ran the ball 53 times for 183 yards. I mean, how are you getting out coached on that? I think Michigan's game plan was perfect. And again, at least 10 points left on the field, a field goal and a touchdown at least. I mean, this could have been a 31-0 game. I mean, it had the feeling of that sort of blowout, 28-0, 31-0, something like that. So I don't agree that Harbaugh was out coached offensively. And as a matter of fact, I mean, Karan career high 33 carries, 144 yards along a 38, average 4.4 per carry. But again, even with that 38-yard run, but you give the ball to Karan, you dictate the tempo, and like I said, considering the weather, I think Michigan had a great game plan. Threw the ball 25 times. I mean, so it was a 2-to-1 ratio essentially. 53 runs to 25 passing attempts. I think that's a good ratio. In a road rivalry game that's going to potentially have some, crazy weather, which it did. So Cam Clark says, I think the transfers are just giving up. Michigan getting rid of the quitters. Robert Protzman says he might have gotten passed during the season. Who are you guys talking about with that? Barbello Sparks says Harbaugh is really serious about fumbles. Might be a minute before we see Chris Evans. RPJ. Rashan Peoples Johnson says, Peoples Johnson in the house. What up, Adam? What I miss? Hey, Rashan. We're 24 minutes almost in. No definitive update on Rashan Gary. Don Brown did say that, they're desperately, he used the word desperately, trying to get Rashan back to health and get him back in the lineup. No update on Juwan Bushell-Beatty, who was playing his best football at Michigan. Offensive line playing its best football. Sorry, I'm whipping my boogers on my nose. Forgive me. But the offensive line's playing its best football of the year, and we're looking at an O-line that I think is going to be as good or better as that 16 O-line. And if you think back at this time 2 years ago, we jogged some comparisons of the 2016 team. Michigan was number 2 in the country. So number 5 right now. This has the potential. 16 was a playoff-looking team. Had the mishap at Iowa. Had the Spate injury. Well, your quarterback staying healthy. You got really good offensive line. The defense is as good as it's been. I mean, this is an elite level defense all the way. This might really be a team that they can make a playoff push. And again, I said in the beginning of the year, I thought 10-2 was a ceiling with my predictions. Now I predicted 9-3. I said 10-2 would be the ceiling, but I did reserve the right to change your predictions because you're making predictions based on okay, this guy's going to be healthy. This is what it's going to be. I mean, the prediction again, I predicted in the beginning of the year Michigan State to win this game 23-20. But then I revised my prediction after Michigan State's entire offensive line gets injured. Brian Lewerke's injured. Felton Davis, well, that was an in-game injury. But all these other injuries that occurred leading up to that, so I changed my prediction. With Ohio State, I can see myself changing the prediction as long as Michigan keeps playing as well. I mean, I would be shocked an 11-win season just because with this schedule it's so hard to do. But Michigan comes out with 10 or 11 wins out of the schedule. You got to look at it as a playoff team. It has to be a playoff caliber team. It had arguably the strongest strength, the highest rated strength of schedule, depending on where you looked in the country coming into this year. Played 3 rivalry games on the road. Tell me who was doing that. All ranked. Ohio State should be ranked at the end of the year, assuming that there's just not a complete falling apart in Columbus. Michigan State was ranked. Notre Dame was ranked. And look at what Notre Dame is. So, I mean, I think Michigan keeps playing the way Michigan is playing at a level where I thought, okay, if this happens, then we're looking at a team that can really do some damage here. And Michigan continues to progress that way. So, Rock City says, what up? Adam Rock City, thanks for joining. Cam Clark says, Evans has had issues in the past taking care of the ball. MCGB says, running back is a weak position outside of Higdon. We haven't got much production. I mean, I suppose you could say that, but I mean, True Wilson's been good when he's been called upon. Fullback, if you want to include the fullback in there, I think they've gotten a lot out of Ben Mason this year. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns now? 6? Let's look at the Michigan football stat leaders real quick. While I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I think Ben Mason's tied for the team lead with 6 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. The receiving, let's go over the receiving too. So, yep, 6 touchdowns for Ben Mason. True Wilson has 1 rushing touchdown. Chris has 2. Shea Patterson has 1. Dylan McCaffrey has 1. Let's go the receiving though. Last year there are 3 guys that eclipsed last year's season leader. Grant Perry had like 307 yards. This year Zach Gentry has 332. Peoples-Jones 326. Nico Collins 320. Grant Perry with 119. Nick Eubanks with 108. Sean McCune with 108. And then Oliver Martin, Ronnie Bell, 83 and 80 respectively. So, but yeah, there are a lot of use out of the tight ends as we expected, and Zach Gentry being the guy in those terms. If you have any questions, again, you can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Follow Great Lakes Divide at GL Divide, and on Facebook at Great Lakes Divide. And if you like what you hear, like what you see, like what you read, contribute in the super chat. Any amount helps. Very generous from the viewers in the past, over the past 4, 5, 6 days. So I appreciate that, guys. So if you want to get your comment highlighted and be the hero of the super chat, go right ahead. Chris Hawk even said when I remember, he's like, if Michigan doubles the spread 2 weeks in a row, he's like, I'm dropping a 20, and Chris Hawk did. So thanks to Chris. Let me see. Troy Radcliffe says, hey, Adam, if you look at that video, you see the Michigan State players drop their arms for Hudson. They did. They did. Barbello Sparks says, True Wilson should be number 2. Evans seems real tender. Big Bubble Blue says, MSU and Purdue. Yeah, Purdue won, but these are games Dantonio thrives in. And Iron Cross says, Iowa stomps Penn State. Big Brother says, penalties, field goals, and ball security need to improve. Those are some areas. Yes, I agree. Luke Copley says, Bigger still waiting for you to take me to a game. Luke Copley, the fireman, my reliever. Luke, you could be an intern. You could come. I'll see if I could get you a game credential, and you can come hold the monopod. So direct message me or text me. So Hope everything's going well. You just had didn't you just tell you just had a surgery or something? You're going through some recovery. Anyway, Luke is the quintessential relief pitcher. He's got the attitude and he can back it up. He's about 6'3", and he's throwing high 80s. And yeah, that's Luke Copley in a nutshell. Competitor. A competitor. Any other questions, comments, concerns? But Luke, direct message me. We'll get that done. Cam Clark says no Iron Cross. I want Penn State to be ranked when we play them. Big Brother says I went to the library across the river, just sat there during the delay. What'd you read, Big Brother? MCGBs. Okay, I read that. Barbello Sparks says Nico Tariq and Donovan on the field all at the same time is straight sick. Penn State's in trouble. That's scary to think about, isn't it? Nico Tariq and Donovan. That is a scary. Matt the Destroyer 2 says I got Iowa by 3. Talking about the Penn State game. Matt the Destroyer says also Michigan by 10. I'm low on Penn State. Michigan by 10 over Penn State. Big Bubble Blue says excited to sit back and know we can't lose this week. I guarantee Michigan does not lose this weekend. Bet the farm on it. Whatever you have, all your personal belongings, the clothes on your back, everything in your possession, put it all on Michigan to not lose this weekend. Ironclad pick right there. That one cannot be wrong. Matt the Destroyer says I was afraid that the weather delay would mess up rhythm. Yeah, and I mean if you're a Michigan fan, you start thinking back to last year, right? And the weather. I made a joke. Michigan State's an agricultural school. They have a special weather machine that they brought out the weather for this. But all jokes aside, it didn't seem to bother Michigan. I think if anything, it kind of rejuvenated them. And I mean, Michigan came into this. Jim Harbaugh said Michigan came in with energy. They weren't going to be bullied. They weren't going to be intimidated. I don't imagine Cleek Hudson's the kind of guy you want to try. Why they wanted to try Lawrence Marshall, I don't know. Lawrence looks like a nice guy. He's one of those big dudes that you're like, man, that dude's a big teddy bear, big nice guy. But I mean, Lawrence Marshall, in reality, if you pushed him, he'd probably break you in half. I mean, Cleek Hudson, though, Cleek's got that don't screw with me kind of aura about him. Cleek Hudson's not the kind of guy that Michigan State thought they could test Lawrence Marshall, but they're not going to test Devin Bush, and they're not going to test Cleek Hudson. I'll tell you that much. Alan Pinckney says, do you see a playoff berth if things keep going? I'll say this, it's not impossible, and the chances are a lot better than even I thought coming into this year. So, because I didn't think Ohio State was going to get totally annihilated by Purdue. I just never saw that. Troy Radcliffe says, honestly, the weather made the teams, even without that rain, they would have never scored. Well, honestly, the weather made the teams, even without that rain, they would never score. I think I know what you're saying. Cam Clark says, talking about Hudson and Singleton. What about Singleton? What am I missing here? Guys, if I missed a comment or a question, please resubmit it. I'll try to get back to it. Troy Radcliffe says Ohio State's got problems from, and then it just scrolled up. Linebackers to defensive backs. Matt the Destroyer says Ohio State has no defense and a weaker run game than Michigan. CJ Onyekuru says, Adam, is that a Wisconsin hat behind you? This one? No, that's a Washington Nationals. It's a Washington Nationals. It's a Walgreens hat, actually. If you've ever been to Walgreens. I'm trying not to get up because I'm wearing sweatpants. I know I wore a button-up shirt. Trying to make you guys think that I actually dress for this thing, but I don't. I'm actually wearing sweatpants, so I didn't want to get up. How stupid does that look? You're wearing a button-up shirt with sweatpants. You look like an idiot. So just pretend that I have on some jeans right now, but I don't. I have on sweatpants. Robert Protzman says this is the year Michigan goes 11-1 and doesn't make the playoff. Iron Cross, Luigi still out. Yes, out for the year. Barbello Sparks says Harbaugh is about to turn Michigan into a Midwest Alabama. Give him 3 years. Matt the Destroyer says At CJ, Washington's MLB team. Yeah, I like Washington Nationals. I have a few Washington hats. I like the color combination. I like the alternate with the DC, which is right behind it because it has gold in it and it goes perfectly with these Air Max 90s that I got. I've had that hat for a long time, but um, I'm I'm a geek like that. Hat's got to match the shoes if possible. Matt the Destroyer 2 says Michigan always has elite fullback. I mean, fullback U right now, especially if you look just the past few years with Poggi, Khalid Hill, Ben Mason. Ben Mason is just probably the most athletic out of all of them. Well, not probably, he is. But I want to say Khalid made a nice catch last year along the sidelines. He was like tiptoe. I'm trying to remember which game that was. And I want to say that Khalid maybe hurdled it. I don't know if we're gonna call it hurdle. I think he jumped over a guy who was extending out to tackle him, dove at him. He didn't just straight up hurdle him like Ben Mason did his guy. But I want to say that I remember seeing Khalid hop over somebody. Khalid was a pretty athletic guy. Oh, let's see. Any other questions, guys? Our word 16. Does the passing game scheme change at all once Black returns 100%? I mean, you might see more shots, but I don't think downfield. I don't think it changes that much though. Cam Clark says will be interesting to see how we replace Higdon. Maybe that freshman coming in gets a bunch of PT. Omari Samuels too, guys. I mean, Omari's not a bad back. Bat the Destroyer. Yeah, you guys are discussing scenarios. We could discuss playoff scenarios later this week. Maybe after Saturday, to see what happens to a couple teams. I think we're going to start getting a clearer playoff picture. But Michigan's certainly worthy of being in that discussion, right? I mean, number 5 AP ranking, and there's a lot trending in Michigan's favor. So, Eric Jenny, or Jen, how do I say it? Eric G, explain. Sometimes I need it phonetically, Eric. So let me know, and I'll try. First time joining, go blue. Thanks for joining, Eric. Luke Copley's injury update. He's at Rochester College. He's a sophomore. He says, yes, going through recovery right now. Will do on the DM. What is it? Was it? It's an elbow thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Robert Protzman says they're going to get Bama in the playoffs. So how? David MCC says Juwan Bush will be health. No update on Juwan, David. Matt the Destroyer 2 says I'll super chat $100 if we lose this weekend. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. I don't see that happening though. But if you guys want to super chat any amount of dollars, that's always great and appreciated. So go ahead and do that if you'd like to. Checking Twitter one last time for any questions here. A couple other notes. Don Brown said Brian Monet played his best game at nose tackle, and Chase Winovich is playing like a crazy man. Or Chase Winovich is a crazy man who plays with his hair on fire. And sorry, getting sidetracked here. Cam Clark says we have a better chance of losing this week than we do Rutgers. Kenneth Harmon says for the 44th time in 49 games, the team that's rushed for more won the game. Kenneth had that stat before the game. Excellent. And yeah, Michigan tripled Michigan State's average or yards surrendered per game. Big Brother says I was in the stairwell on my phone and the Spartan fans in there kept walking by telling me we were going to lose. Joel Brown says, what's up, Biggs? I'm late, but I want to tell you Michigan is going to the playoff. Hal Barber says Ben Mason is scary. Eric says we won't see Tariq until Ohio State. Robert Protzman said we saw him against MSU. Joel Brown says, yo, hell, no doubt. Mason equals a beast. I believe that. Isaac Gogol says, how about Kingston Davis at fullback? I have a funny Kingston Davis story that I should tell you guys. So Kingston Davis was the number one ranked fullback in his class when he got to Michigan, and then Kingston's dad. I wrote an article calling him a fullback. He was listed as a fullback. He was number one ranked fullback. His dad sent me a string of direct messages telling me that he was a running back and that he was very displeased with my coverage of his son and yada 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 and so forth. So that's my Kingston Davis story. I tell another funny story during the podcast about Mark Dantonio kind of ripped me today, but when I really got ripped by a coach, and this was way back when I was at the Flint Journal, I tell the story about that, and it wasn't Michigan or Michigan State. It was way more fiery. Junior hockey, NAHL, Mo Mantha. If you guys know hockey, he assisted Mario Lemieux's first NHL goal with the Penguins. Mo was a big part of the United States National Developmental Team, Team USA, Olympic hockey and all that stuff. He used to coach a team here. The Michigan Warriors, actually, the other day when I wore this hoodie with this logo. So that's the team. And they were on the road, and they've been playing well. And they went on the road. They got their butts kicked. And I just asked Mo, like basically what the loss means, kind of repercussion. I think that loss mathematically eliminated them from being in the playoff hunt. And the year before, they had won the Robertson Cup, which is the NAHL's version of the Stanley Cup. So Mo was not pleased at all. And it's like, how in the F do you think I feel? Several four-letter words. So in the paper, I just ended up paraphrasing and saying that Mo Mantha was not happy with the loss, with the way the Warriors lost on the road. So anyway, yeah, check out that audio. It's on my Twitter. Cam Clark says he'll super chat 50 if they beat OSU. Michigan beats Ohio State. We're going out 42 minutes, guys. Any final questions? I'll have a live stream tomorrow. Kenneth Harmon with a $2 super chat. I appreciate it, Kenneth. Thank you. Let me make sure I didn't. Eric Jenny says, okay, it's pronounced Jenny. Thank you, Eric. LLJ says transfer to the program is a sign of true meritocracy. The Gov says you're over 1,400 subscribers. Congratulations. Hey guys, I appreciate the channel. Before the season started, it was at like 980, and then through camp, steadily climbing. Wes Weber, thank you with the $1.99 super chat. No, I'm not saying that 3 times. I'm not saying it 3 times. But yeah, thank you, Gov. Yeah, I've been seeing a big increase in numbers, and now, yes, over more than 1,400 subscribers. So thank you to everybody who joins. Cam Clark says, you know what? I'll do $100 if we win out and make the playoff. Well, hey, Cam, if that happens, save the $100 for yourself to go celebrate, man. You'll want to do that, I'm sure. Wes Weber says, hey, Wes. Our words 616. You got a score prediction for the Michigan Penn State game? I do not this Friday, the Friday after that. On Fridays, we do the score and predictions and player of the game predictions, courtesy of Mr. Spot. So, Isaac Gogo, $2 super chat. Thank you, Isaac. He says, do I watch Last Chance U? I don't. I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes of it, but I don't really watch a lot of series, guys. I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm actually into history. I'll tell you that, like I said, I was really into skateboarding, so I would still watch skate videos. I don't care. I also had a very illegal and very healthy graffiti habit, and not gang stuff. I know a lot of people hear graffiti and they're like, oh, it's gang. No, it's not. I'm the least gang bangingest person that I know. And if you meet other graffiti writers, a lot of them are like geeky art school kids from the suburbs. I think people have this misconception of what a graffiti writer. They're a different type of graffiti writers, but I'm telling you, it's not a graffiti writer is not the hoodlum with a spray can, writing his street name on the building for the hell of it. So I like to watch a lot of graffiti videos. I draw. I've always liked to draw. I used to draw like my baseball cards and photos and whatever I could in sports. So I mean, it all kind of goes together. Sport. But I don't really watch series. Like I said, I watch more like documentaries and videos and things like that. So anyway, Ben Peterson says, sorry about being late, Adam, and all. Must vent for a second. This Gary speculation is getting painful. Any guy who has always referred to his teammates as brothers is not going to quit on them. But nobody says that Rashan's going to quit. I mean, when Michigan doesn't give a definitive answer, then yeah, it opens it for speculation. And the longer this goes, the worse it looks. I'll give you that. But don't I haven't heard anything credible to suggest that Rashan Gary is not going to play. But at the same time, if he is injured, whatever the case may be, I'm with whatever Rashan Gary wants to decide. You got to look at it from these guys' perspective. They're playing to get in the NFL. This is the rest of his life, and I'm sure there's a lot more people in this. Jim Harbaugh said, Rashan talked to his family, and Rashan made the choice to not play. So, and that's another thing. He made the choice to not play. Is it because he's not 100% healthy, or what's the reasoning? We're not getting details, and the lack of details makes it easy to speculate. But I'd settle down right now. I don't automatically assume that's what's going on, Ben, but I understand what point you're making. But things happen sometimes. And I think it's unfair to criticize him. Let's say if he does leave, I don't think that means that he doesn't have respect for his team, or anything less than like that. He's got it. At the end of the day, you got to look out for number one. And yeah, I understand the aspect of being on the team and everything, but are you a projected top 20 NFL first round pick? I don't know. Things are a little bit different when those are the circumstances. So, Big Brother says, all I want is a win against Ohio State. I don't care about anything else. Michigan hasn't beat both rivals in the same year since 2003. That's a true point. Good point. Alan Pinkney says, Joel Klatt has been right about Michigan. He says they will be top 4 teams in the playoff. Do you agree? If they keep going like this, yes, I do think so. Kenneth Harmon says, Adam, please talk about Coach Brown and the job he's done since he's arrived. Number one, defenses, attitude, a guy who gives a great interview, someone who gives you real information and not just coach talk. The addition Jim Harbaugh said on Monday, they don't get any better than Don Brown. He said a big hug for Don Brown. He cried in the locker room Saturday after the win. He wants to give Don Brown a hug. Jim Harbaugh's getting soft on us, I guess. And yeah, Don Brown, fantastic addition. And if you look, the two most valuable coaches, I think, other than Jim Harbaugh, obviously head coach, but I don't think, Don Brown gets a fair amount of praise, which he deserves, but Greg Madison as well. Greg Madison deserves a ton of credit. This defensive line has really been a difference maker, and I don't think that Greg Madison gets enough credit. But yes, Don Brown, fantastic addition. No problem on the defensive side of the ball. Now, only if Michigan can find this sort of continuity on offense, right? And again, I've talked about this a million times. I don't care what they're called. They don't have to have the traditional OC label. It doesn't matter. As long as it's the same people year in, year out, and stop changing up these titles and bringing in these different people. I guess the titles don't matter, but keep the same people. Why is it working for the defense? Because there's very little turnover, and you got Don Brown, Greg Madison as the foundation. Keep the same offensive line coach, OC, whatever. Yeah, Pep's been there for a couple of years, but you get what I'm saying. You did the Greg Fry experiment. You did the Tim Drevno thing. Is Ed Warner finally the answer? Is this now a guy that we're going to see Ed Warner? And you keep Ed Warner on the offensive staff, and Jim Harbaugh and Pep Hamilton, and I think do whatever you want with the remaining wiggle room you have on the offensive staff. But I think with those three, that's a good recipe, and it's turning out to look that way, right? Again, if I missed your comment, please resubmit it. I'm trying to go down the list as much as possible. Ben Peterson says playoff talk's a bit premature. Let's see how they come out on improvement week. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Sleeping on Penn. Yeah, I'm not sleeping on Penn State at all, Ben. But yeah, guys, don't get too far ahead of yourself. Yeah, the playoff talk's entertaining. Still games to be played. Penn State's going to be a tough one. After Penn State, then I think you start really now the playoffs. Now let's really start talking about it. But Matt Destroyer 2, what's your favorite Major League Baseball team? I like the Reds. I like the Reds too. I've always been a big Reds fan because I liked Barry Larkin growing up. He was one of my favorite players. Chris Sabo was on that team as well. Rob Dibble. I really like Rob Dibble. I don't even know why I liked Rob Dibble. I just did. But I'm a Tigers fan. Grew up a big Tigers fan. I would say the Tigers are my favorite Major League Baseball team. But my dad lived in Kansas City for a little bit, so I was a big Royals fan. And you know what? I'll tell you this story too. So it was a year after Bo Jackson got traded. I remember we made plans. We're going to go out and see my dad in the summer. I'm like, yeah, Can't wait to go to a Royals game. I can't wait to see Bo Jackson. And, I'm like 8 years old, and Bo Jackson is a superhuman to me. And I'm like, yes, Bo Jackson, Danny Tartable, George Brett Saberhagen. I was really into the Royals, so I was like, man, I can't wait to go see it. Well, I get there, and I'm like, we get to the game and everything, and I just remember looking at looking out on the field and everything, and asking my dad, I'm like, hey, where's Bo Jackson? And he's like, oh yeah, he got traded to the Chicago White Sox. And I'm like, what? Why? Why? And the Royals actually played the Tigers that day, and I remember because I was wearing my Tigers hat, and the Kansas City fans were very rude to me as a kid. I remember I was getting booed by adults for wearing a Tigers hat. I'm 8 years old at Kauffman Stadium. They've changed the name since then, but it was Kauffman back then. 8 years old at Royal Stadium, and these grown men are booing me. And yeah, so anyway, I like the Royals. Reds fan. I like Mark Grace was one of my favorite players growing up. So I mean, my favorite team, the Tigers for sure. But I mean, I have reasons for liking other teams, and it's for the players. I was a big A's fan when I was younger. The Bash brothers and Ricky Henderson, and I mean, I was always into baseball. So, but yeah, Tigers are my favorite team. Joe Smith says, "Who cares about the pregame nonsense?" Isaac Gogol. Okay, I already went. I'm scrolling down to the bottom, guys. If I missed your question or comment, and if it was important, please let me know and repeat it. Isaac says, "Adam, you should be a Cubs fan." I have a Cubs fan. I'm a baseball fan in general. Matt Crittenden says, "Hey Adam, how much did I miss?" We're getting toward the end, Matt. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, now's the time to voice them. We're going on 52 minutes. Colin Bell says, Chase mentioned Gary. Based on preseason comments, it seemed like Gary was influential in the decision for Chase to stay. I have not heard anything from Chase about Rashan Gary. Chase wasn't available after the game Saturday. He did the post game on the field with Fox, and then no players this week. Greg Ryan says, don't forget the strength and conditioning staff. You're starting to see the difference. The team doesn't run out of gas. That's also true. Yes. Cam Clark says, I think McElwain isn't getting enough respect. Wideouts are a million times better than last. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to cite improvement wise. Who's valuable? Jim Harbaugh was called it like a ideal collaboration or something collaboration. And that's what it's turning out to be, right? And these are the results that they wanted. And these are the results that they've been searching for, I think, when you see the turnover in the coaching staff, trying to get these bits and pieces in there to make everything work. And then you're like, now we have it, and boom, now we don't. Or now we have it, now I keep it. I'm sorry. That's got to be Michigan's mentality right now. What you're doing right now is working. Do not change this offensively. Don't change it. Everything's working fine. Don't change it. Don't let McElwain get away. Don't let Ed Warner go when his contract expires. Keep these people in here, lock them up long term, because whatever you're doing right now is working, and you're doing this against a strong schedule. This isn't just, okay, things look good and they're playing a bunch of cupcake teams. No, they're playing like arguably the toughest schedule in the country, one of them for sure. And in the preseason, it was ranked number one by some websites according to their metrics. So don't change what you're doing, Michigan, offensively, because it's working very well. And the quarterback development, Dylan McCaffrey's going to be a good quarterback when it's his turn. I still think we see Shea next year. So, Michigan's offense is going nowhere but up. Oh, Greg Ryan says, my 10-year-old just became a Michigan fan this week. Isaac Gogol says, why is Don Brown not a head coach somewhere? He could be. But, you could be a head coach, or you can make $1 bazillion at Michigan for being a defensive coordinator and have the chance to play for national championships. And maybe this leads to an NFL job for him. If you're a Michigan fan, you don't want to hear anything like that. You want Don Brown there forever. Brandon Gamble says, what up, Adam? Who do you think will win the West Division of the Big Ten? I think it's Iowa right now. But I don't know. Purdue? Purdue's won 4 in a row. Wes Weber says Iowa's number 3 in total defense. Cam Clark says Don Brown's making $2 million a year. Yeah, I mean that's pretty good money. That's pretty good money. And Matt Crittenden says Don Brown said he wants to retire at Michigan. Yeah, I do remember him saying that too. So I guess I was just saying in theory. But yeah, it's a good thing. Don Brown, you lock Don Brown up, you don't want him to go. I mean, does it lead to another job? He said he wants to retire at Michigan. I mean, I imagine if he gets an NFL job offer, maybe. But again, Don Brown, perfect fit at Michigan, not going anywhere. He might be a guy who people try to lure away from Michigan. I could definitely see that. And look, it's not. He had the number 1 defense at Boston College. That's why Michigan went after him. After DJ Durkin left Michigan, Jim Harbaugh said he was looking at stats. No, who had the number one defense? Boston College. All right, call that guy. Call their defensive coordinator. It's a system. It's not if it worked at Boston College and he had good, talented defensive players. Now you go to Michigan, you have elite NFL-bound defensive players, and your system just looks that much better. I'd be interested to compare these numbers to 2015 Boston College when it had the number 1 defense in the country. See who they played. I might do that. That might be kind of a fun thing to do. So, any chance? Matt Crittenden says any chance we could convince Ed Warner to retire at Michigan too. As the fans, you guys maybe want to sign a petition to make Michigan sign him for a lifetime contract. Barbello Sparkers, Josh Metellus, the best safety in the Big Ten. He's one of them. One of the best safeties in the country right now. Big Brother says Moorhead tried to bring him into Mississippi State last year, and he said no. Yeah, I mean, people are going to go after Don Brown. Definitely. Matt Crittenden says, what about Mike Zordich? Does he have defensive coordinator head coach aspirations? I don't know. I've never asked him that, but I mean, he seems pretty content at Michigan. I think Mike Zordich is a good fit at Michigan. But like I said, they got a good staff here. I mean, if you can hold on to this and keep it as much of it as possible for as long as possible, you're going to win a lot of football games. And defensively, I mean, Brown and Madison are the linchpins, right? I mean, Zordich, I'm not taking credit away from Zordich. He's been very good too. But offensively, I mean, you got to keep Ed Warner, right? I mean, you have Michigan's offensive line now being talked about as a strength, as where it was a liability. And we've been talking about this for a few weeks now. Been seeing progression. The Wisconsin game showed, the Nebraska game, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and then Michigan State. I mean, it's just continuous progression. Sherwoody14 says, any idea how much Warner makes? I like the idea of highly paid assistants for continuity. Let's check it out. I don't know exactly what he makes. It's a 2-year deal. It was a 2-year deal. $500,000, basically. 525 his first year and 550 his second year. He'll owe Michigan $100,000 if he leaves for another assistant coaching position before the deal expires. So imagine maybe after that, and I don't know the specifics of the 2-year deal. I don't know if he's eligible to renegotiate after 1 year, but I mean after 2 years, if I'm Ed Warner and I've been doing this for 2 years at Michigan, I'm going to be like, I want 1.5 per year. Let's do this. Let's do it. Write the check. Get Ward Manuel, Jim Harbaugh together, everybody in the athletic department, write that check for Ed Warner. Joel Brown says, I'm in the wrong business. I know, right? I mean, but the road to coaching is like all these coaches, if you ask them, they got a good woman behind them. That you have to. You have to have a support system. You have to have a wife that's willing to support you during your dream and everything. Because a lot of these guys, I have a buddy, Rich Conrad. He was in this live stream. He's coaching D2 football. He's an offensive line coach. I mean, he's a young guy. He's 25 years old. He's friends with some of my players. He's just a few years older than some of those guys. And he's working for a modest pay and everything. It's just about building resume, meeting people, and I mean, look at John Beeline's climb to success. I mean, he started at Richmond, and that's kind of a bigger job. But you know what I mean? I mean, these guys don't oftentimes just jump into a high-profile coaching job. They pay their dues. Greg Madison started coaching high school football when he tried out for the Washington Redskins and was cut. And he's like, okay, well, I guess it's time to coach. He's in Wisconsin. He started coaching high school football. So Isaac Gogol says, hashtag get Adam a girlfriend. Yeah, a sugar mama that'll support my dreams while I become a big sports writer and a coach. No, but in all seriousness, in coaching, you do have it. Like 99% of these guys say, "Hey, I would not be able to do this if it weren't for my wife or my girlfriend or my fiance, because I have a strong support system." And a woman who understands, hey, in the long run, this is going to pay off when he's making six figures a year being a coach. But right now, he's got to do what he's got to do. So Big Brother says, laugh, LMAO, the sugar mama, yes. uh, any other questions, guys? Operation Paperclip says, YouTube, scientism exposed, please. What does that mean? Isaac Gogo, hashtag bigger is woman advice. You don't want woman advice from me, Isaac, trust me. Cam Clark seems like coaching, you need to know someone to get a good job. Yeah, that's true too. Connections are big, big, big in this. Same way in sports media. I mean, and same way in a lot of things, right? I mean, it's about who you know a lot of times. That's very true. Barbello Spark wants to know, where's all the Jim Harbaugh critics now? People run their mouth and all of a sudden stick their head in the ground. I guess that's what happens when you blow out Wisconsin and you go to Michigan State and hand it to Michigan State. People begin to kind of shut their mouth a little bit, I guess. Big Brother says sports are better than women. My ex-girlfriends would probably would probably like to disagree with you on that, Big Brother. Isaac Ogle says, nah, I think Harbaugh's a good, not great coach. Matt Crittenden says, how's the offensive tackle depth with Hudson leaving, particularly after this year? Stuber, I mean, Vistardis probably played more of a guard, but maybe a tackle. I mean, you have Jalen Mayfield. John Runyon will be back. Juwan will be back. I mean, I don't think the depth takes too much of a hit, honestly. I think I'm at the end of the chat, guys. If I missed your question or comment, it was not on purpose. I'll get to it tomorrow. Follow me. We're going to cut it short. We're at an hour. Well, not short. We're at an hour and 2 minutes now. So follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. Again, thanks to everybody who contributed in the super chat. If you'd like to do so now is your chance. It's not required, but much appreciated. Read all my stuff at greatlakesdivide.squarespace.com. That's the mobile version. greatlakesdivide.com is desktop version. Follow us at GL Divide on Twitter, at Great Lakes Divide on Facebook. You can find the GLD podcast on iTunes and Spotify and Podcast Addict and all that other stuff. Ryan Schuling's working on that now, so it should be posted at some point today. Again, want to give a thanks to our title sponsor, FederalWilliams.com. That's FEDERAU Williams.com. Contact Mike Williams, whether you're buying or selling in the state of Michigan. I'm talking to you guys. Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you looking for a home? Contact Mike Williams. Tell him I sent you. FederalWilliams.com. FEDERAU Williams.com. Specializes statewide. He's in the Lansing area, but he can take care of you no matter where you live in the state of Michigan. So again, special thanks to FederalWilliams.com. And thanks to everybody for joining, all the regulars, all the new subscribers, Gov, Wes, Isaac, Matt, Tatenda, JBB's a red shirt. Runyon, now you got me second guessing myself. Hold on. It's like, aren't they? They're both redshirt juniors. Hold on. Tatenda, you would have to come up with that right as I'm trying to get out of here. I'm pretty sure that Juwan Bushell-Beatty and John Runyon are both redshirt juniors, though. And for you, I am. Oh, no. Yep, Juwan is great. Yeah, you're right. Fifth-year senior. So Juwan's gone. My bad. Runyon's a senior, but I think he redshirted. Yeah, he redshirted his freshman year. So Runyon will be back. But yeah, you're right. My bad on Juwan. He's a grad student. Isaac Gogol says, I buy all the time, Adam Justin. What are you talking about? Jay says, well, they're exes, so sports better than women. Isaac Gogol says, hashtag reunite Adam and his ex. Decommit. Alan Pigney, they decommitted. Yep. All right, guys. Hey, I had a lot of fun again. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81, at Great Lakes Divide, GL Divide on Twitter, and on Facebook at Great Lakes Divide. I'll have more on Michigan this week. It's the bye week, so we're going to be discussing how Michigan got to this point. Focus on the defense. I'll have that piece up this week. And any other questions, comments, concerns, subscribe, like, share. I think you guys know what to do. So, hey, thanks for joining me on this Tuesday evening. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk again tomorrow. Have a good one.